Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trumpful Reads, and in this video what we're going to be doing is looking back on my 2018 goals that I made for myself in January of last year and seeing how I measured up to my own goals. And if you guys want to watch something really cringy, go ahead and watch that video. I'll put a link down below. I'm going to warn you, it's pretty terrible. I'm not going to lie. I was watching it to like just to refresh myself on the goals, and I was just like, oh my gosh, how did people watch me and not just like make fun of me? But anyways, go watch that if you want to laugh. But let's just get started with my 2018 goals. For the number of books I set for myself, I picked 52 books for one book a week because I really didn't know exactly how much I was going to read if I like really set my mind to it. I definitely hit that goal. I read way more than 52 books, so that one was pretty easy. But then I went into kind of particulars because I didn't really read much fantasy before last year. I read a little bit, and then with nonfiction it was mostly just history. So I set for myself little particular tallies for different topics. For history books, I set myself for 23. I'm not quite sure why I had 20. I put 23 history books and 23 fantasy books. I have no idea why I had 23 and 23. It sounds like kind of a weird little combination. But anyways, for 23 history books, I definitely hit that. I read about 55 to 60, depending on what you count as history or kind of more like an ancillary history subject and stuff. But I definitely hit that. I more than doubled the history book ones. That one really wasn't gonna be a surprise because that's definitely my go-to genre, my number one genre, both for what I like to read and also just the volume of reading in general. And then under history, I had couple different categories. For example, 5 ancient history books, which I classify as anything before the classical period, so anything before classical Greece, basically. So basically Persia and earlier. And actually, I set myself for 5. I only read 7-ish ancient history books, which actually wasn't that many. So I'm definitely thinking I'm going to add that to my next year's goals. I haven't decided yet exactly what my 2019 goals are. I'm still thinking on that, but definitely ancient history is probably going to be up there because, like I said, I only read 7, which really isn't that many for me, and I'd like to increase that. All right, next up was 5 classical history books, which I count as Greece and Rome, and I read roughly 20 or so Greco-Roman or one or the other books, so that was pretty much right on point, what I expected, I guess. I'm not sure why I had that one quite so low, to be honest, because basically the Roman Republic and classical Greece are my favorite subjects in history, so yeah, it didn't really make a lot of sense to set that one so low, but definitely hit that one. For the next up, and it was 5 medieval history books, and medieval history is usually one that I neglect a little bit more. Usually once I hit about the end of the medieval period, Renaissance period, I pretty much drop off and I don't really read anything beyond 1500, except for World War One. But anyways, so I set myself 5 medieval books, and I wrote down 19-ish medieval books that I read in 2018. So that was actually a surprise. There was a spurt in the middle of the year where I read 4 or 5 or 6 or something in 2 months, and that definitely increased it a lot. I had a bunch of medieval biographies that I didn't actually mind. It was William Marshall, Marco Polo, Joan of Arc, just to name a couple off the top of my head. I'm trying to look at them. And also I read a bunch of Viking books, which obviously count in the medieval period. I think I read 4 or 5 just strictly Viking history books. So I think that definitely increased it as well. I'm not sure. I think I'm trying to look for the magnum opus of a Viking book, and I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being Gwyn Jones's The Vikings Are Here, and not just because it's a Fuller Society really awesome edition. But just I've heard really, really good things about it, and I've personally been waiting to read it until I have read a bunch of other Viking books. And like I said, most of those were just kind of middle of the road 3 or 4 star reads. So I'm still looking for a good 5-star Viking history book. But back to the goals. I also had read 6 nonfiction books that were not history based. And at first I thought that was going to be a challenge because like I said, I rarely read anything but history before then. But I did find a whole new subgenre of nonfiction that I really, really enjoy, and it's basically nature writing or writing about the life sciences or exploration around the world, things like that. And I read, I think I read about 20 of those over the course of the year, just because I really enjoyed it. And also there was a bunch of like memoirs, things like that that I also read. And altogether it was about 30 nonfiction that weren't history based, I guess. So I'm really pleased I set that goal, because now nature writing is like my second favorite genre, I believe. So I'm really pleased with that. And like I said, it kind of, when I said in my book, still booktube newbie tag, it's good to try new things, because sometimes, you know, you find something you really enjoy that you didn't realize beforehand. So really glad I set that as a goal, and I'm probably going to set up another goal, kind of something along this line. I don't know, try to find another subgenre that I really enjoy. But like I said, really like the nature, or like nature writing, life science, or like nature journalism, those kind of books. I just think most of them are like at least like 4 stars usually. Very rarely there's like a 3-star one, and obviously a lot of 5-star ones as well. Just really enjoy it. And lastly, for the fantasy reads, like I said, I had 23 fantasy. I don't know what I was thinking with the 23. I think it was 23, and 6 to make 52. I don't know. But anyways, my goal was to read 23 fantasy books, which I did. I read about 40, which actually surprised me. I didn't realize I read that many, but a bunch of like readathons, like the one readathon to rule them all, like both of them combined, I think I read about like 16 or 17 fantasy books just in those 2 readathons. So that was like over half my fantasy reading just in those 2 readathons. But like I said, I read about 40, and I did complete my like kind of sub goals of trying out lots of different genres, and also reading fantasy from different eras. Like I've read, you know, obviously like really modern books come out in the last couple of years. Read some, let's see, Finlock fantasy is definitely my favorite subgenre of fantasy that I've basically read so far. Read some classical fantasy from like, you know, the 20s and 30s with like Conan and Robert E. Howard. Read some from like the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. So I pretty much hit every decade. I don't know if I read any from the 40s. It's the only one I'm thinking that I didn't actually end up reading. But definitely like some of the vintage ones, like the Riddle Master of Head from like the late 70s, early 80s. Things like that. Just really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to keep trying out new fantasy genres, and probably what I'm going to be doing with these goals will be to try to finish up series, because I think I've read about parts of 22 series now, and I've only finished like 2 maybe. So that's probably going to be a goal in my 2019 goals. But like I said, I'm still kind of working on those. But so overall, I think I completed every goal. The only one that was kind of close was the ancient history with 5 as a goal, and I read 7. And I think that was including Gilgamesh, which is like a primary source, but I still count it as like, you know, ancient history, because it's kind of, I guess. But anyways, tell me what you guys think I should do for some new ideas, I guess, or creative ideas for the 2019 goals. I'd be glad to hear your input on that. And just tell me, leave some comments down below on basically what surprised you about your 2018 goals, or if you managed to complete them all, or if there's any that gave you like a hard time, or ones that you were really pleased that you met, things like that. Leave some comments down below. Be glad to read them and talk to you about them. And always remember, whatever your goals are for 2019, read victoriously.